Thomas Paine said it best. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. Welcome to East and West, a show for helping us keep our spiritual bearings as we navigate this world around us. Wes Young here, glad to be back for episode 3 of our 5th season. This episode is entitled Just Add Money and is an authentic look at the secular world's solution to pretty much everything. Got a problem? Just throw money at it. Here we go, y'all. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 7, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces." These words seem rather harsh for Jesus, don't they? Well, that depends on which Jesus you mean, the imaginary one, fably depicted in many a modern mind, or the real one described in the Gospels. The one who endured the Roman whip and cross, all the while able, if he had caved, to call legions of angels and halt the torture, to cry, "Uncle," as the children's game goes. Jesus. The one who fashioned a whip of his own and drove cheaters from the temple in a zealous rage. The one who said things like, "Get thee behind me, Satan," and "You blind fools," and "You snakes, you brood of vipers." Now, don't let me wreck your gentle ideas of Jesus. He was that too, but he was so much more. Neither a tyrant nor a pushover. He was simply only just Jesus. A man without analogy, the God-man. And getting back to the point, why would the God-man warn against casting pearls to pigs? Obviously, this is metaphorical. He's not teaching his listeners how to care for their swine or where to store their pearls. It seems he is speaking of another great treasure and what not to do with it. Perhaps he means the Gospels, the truth of the kingdom of heaven, the holy message, that pearl of great price, as he depicted it elsewhere. Or perhaps he means our services to others, our helping hands, our charity. Whatever specifically he had in mind, the lesson seems clear. Not all good gifts make good gifts in all circumstances. I remember my 8th grade trip to Washington, D.C., a field trip. I cringed to think of what profound and sublime sights my friends and I walked uncaringly past because we were concerned about who had just told the funniest joke, or who was going to sit with whom at the restaurant that evening, or whatever middle schoolers worry about, we were worried about. When we were approaching, for instance, the tomb of the unknown soldier in Arlington National Cemetery, cutting up and laughing, like middle schoolers, I remember the look our teacher gave us. That man had a powerful look, let me tell you. And when he directed it at us, we said not another word. In an instant, we suddenly realized that it would be a good idea to approach the changing of the guard with reverence. Schools today need more teachers capable of giving such a look. But the point of the story is that not everyone is equipped to receive all types of gifts at any given moment. I'm thankful for the pearl of a trip to D.C., but to be honest, I need that trip now, at age 34, rather than at age 14. In a sense, Jesus is advising all gift givers to consider the nature of the recipients. A laptop computer for a toddler or a brand new Lamborghini for a teenager might not be wisely chosen. This is totally Seinfeld, where Jerry gives his dad an expensive electronic wizard device. Here I go referencing Seinfeld again, I'm sorry. And his dad throughout the episode is unable to understand why Jerry had spent so much on a simple tip calculator. It does other things! Or for a non-Seinfeld reference, there's the old joke about the man who buys a chainsaw and returns it to the hardware store, sweating and panting and complaining, "This thing is no good," he says. The salesman picks it up and gives the start cord one pull. The engine fires right up, to which the first man replies, "What's that noise?" Classic. Not knowing the value of a gift makes for an ill-qualified recipient. Medicine can also be poison. And this brings us to our destination. The secular solution to the problems we explored in the previous episode, the cure for the ills of school, society, humanity. What does the secular world propose? Simply this: throw money at it. Now, I have been fortunate enough to spend my entire teaching career in a very healthy and successful school system. I love it here. But several of my coworkers over the years have come from other school systems not so strong as ours, and they tell me their war stories. Scary stuff, sad stuff. Bizarrely, though, their experiences all seem to share a common trait. These ailing and failing schools had money. Lots of money. Every kid a computer, every administrative office filled with highly paid specialists and consultants, conferences, trainings, professional learning opportunities, you name it, they purchased it. The reason is because when a school falls below the acceptable line, a condition usually tracked by student scores on state and federal tests, the higher powers, either state or federal, step in and try to pull the school out of the swamp. Perhaps in ancient days, governments capitulated a city by rushing in with swords and bows and spears, but in the 21st century, a government takes a school by rushing in with money. And I mean, it's really a logical, rational plan as far as it goes. What reading teacher wouldn't want new sets of great novels for his students? What math teacher wouldn't want functioning calculators? What art teacher wouldn't want a full stock of supplies? Yes, it's a great plan, except that it doesn't work. Pat Conroy, in his book The Water is Wide, paints the perfect image of this. That wonderful library, built with government funds on Yamacraw Island, and completely useless to the illiterate inhabitants. Now step outside of the school world and you'll notice the same throw money at it strategy at play in society as a whole. Is a neighborhood failing? Throw money at it. An economy? Throw money at it. A demographic? Throw money at it. And let me say one little quick parenthetical as to that last one, as to that supposed healing of a people group or a demographic with cash. I'll say one line and I'll leave it alone. Folks, there is a subtle but hideous bigotry to low expectations. Few people seem to be noticing this. It is perhaps the real racism of our time, this creation of a systemic dependency. It stunts the kids and it patronizes the adults, and it is coming from a quarter that the mainstream mind would not easily guess. But enough complaining. Let's talk solutions. If we're to be careful where we cast our pearls, does that imply we should stop casting pearls? Well, perhaps, or maybe better to view it this way. Throw something other than pearls. Let's put gasoline in the car and orange juice in the driver, not the other way around. Give, folks. Yes, Lord help us, give, but put the round pegs in the round holes and the square pegs in the square holes. Know your recipients. To a hammer, everything looks like a nail. But it's a foolish doctor indeed who walks into a ward, examines no one, and prescribes suppositories for all. But doc, there's a bone sticking out of my leg. Ah, suppository! The nature of money is probably the real hinge point here. Let's try a story. Suppose a man falls overboard on some cruise in the South Pacific. By a strange bit of luck, he manages to swim to an uncharted, deserted island. For years, he lives there, Robinson Crusoe style, eating what he finds or grows or catches, and all the while dying of loneliness. He misses his wife, his kids, his family, and his friends. Years continue to roll by as he slips into serious despair. I mean, this guy doesn't even have a volleyball to talk to. he is losing it. It gets so bad that he gathers food only to watch it spoil, uneaten. He catches fish only to poke at their eyes with a stick and then toss them back into the sea, uneaten. He builds huts, but when it rains, he sleeps out under the flooding sky, uncovered. And then at this point, something amazing happens. And we'll take it in two scenarios. Follow me now. Scenario A. Inexplicably, a supply plane flies over his little island and paradrops large crates of food and water and sundry survival supplies. Also in these crates are automatons, highly advanced robots that can do anything from haircuts to homemade pound cakes. Got it? All right, scenario B. Inexplicably, a helicopter lands and a group of rescuers unload. They find the man, hug him, talk to him, counsel him. They clothe him in new clothes and feed him with good food. They cut his hair and make him a pound cake. Okay, parable over. Now, bearing in mind that money is, in its sincerest form, merely a representation of goods and services, I think the meaning of the parable becomes clear. Both scenario A and scenario B give the man the same physical things, goods and services. That is to say, money, essentially, or what money represents in its purest form. But scenario A kills the man, and scenario B saves him. Why is that? Because the former was tossed into the situation mindlessly and heartlessly, while the latter was delivered into the situation humanly. And I'm pronouncing it that way on purpose. I know there's the word humanely, but I'm saying humanly, like a human, with humanity. That is, with wisdom and love and relationship. On paper, there is no difference between scenario A and scenario B, which I suppose is why the bureaucrats have a hard time spotting the immensity of this distinction. I picture a leader miles away from the scene, behind a desk, reading data reports and saying, a haircut is a haircut and a pound cake is a pound cake. Not so. Or try this. Henry David Thoreau's essay entitled Life Without Principle speaks to the folly of the gold digger, who gets money, 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 but without the value behind it, the honest day's work. Thoreau writes, quote, "The gold thus obtained," that is, obtained by digging, by the random find, "is not the same thing with the wages of honest toil." Thoreau's point is that $1,000 does not equal $1,000. How's that for some math? But hear me, political leaders, $1,000 does not equal $1,000. The spirit behind it, the way it came to be and came to be acquired, makes all the difference. And if gold digging is too archaic of an image for you, look to its modern-day offspring, the lottery. Day after day, Americans drop over $200 million into various lottery games. Money is poured into this mine, with each participant hoping to strike the vein to find the golden nugget. Thoreau again says this, quote, "What difference does it make whether you shake dirt or shake dice? If you win, society is the loser." Oh, and Thoreau's best line of all in this topic: "The winners, either of mega gold or mega millions, are, to quote Thoreau, most unfortunate when they think themselves most successful." That is exactly it. Read the accounts of the big-time lottery winners. Do a little personal "where are they now" study of your own and decide if Thoreau has a point. They are most unfortunate just when they think themselves most successful. Or maybe think of it this way. Have you ever heard an old-timer saying to a young person, usually after a hard day's work or something, "This'll teach you the value of $1. It's cliche, yes, I get that, but it's also entirely true. Hemingway captures the idea in a scene from his novel The Sun Also Rises. Picture this. His setting is the festival of San Fermin in Spain. But if that's too international for you, every Middle Georgian, the area I'm broadcasting from, has experienced this same phenomenon at the Georgia National Fair in Perry. Hemingway writes this, The peasants were in the outlying wine shops. There they were, drinking, getting ready for the fiesta. They had come in so recently from the plains and the hills that it was necessary that they make their shifting in values gradually. They could not start in paying cafe prices. They got their money's worth in the wine shops. Money still had a definite value in hours worked and bushels of grain sold. Late in the fiesta, it would not matter what they paid, nor where they bought. See what I mean? And I'm not saying you're buying wine or alcohol at the Perry Fair. That's not the point. The point is, early, when the fiesta or the fair is just getting started, money still equates to your job done and last paycheck received, and so you're not as apt to spend it or toss it or, let's say, waste it on seeing the world's tallest man or shortest woman or whatever. But later in the fiesta or later in the fair, the real value behind the money begins to fade in the magic of the moment. Personally, and I'm not exaggerating or joking when I say this next little bit, I still equate all monetary expenditures by increments of $40. It is baked into my consciousness. Why? Because that's what my grandmother paid me to cut and weed eat and edge her yard. Who knows how many times in my teenage days I did this task in the natty Georgia heat, loading up Dad's antique John Deere lawnmower on the back of my grandpa's even more antique golf cart trailer, gassing up, fueling up, loading up, working up a half-day sweat. Y'all, I am not exaggerating. To this day, deep in my psyche, and even on a gut, visceral level, I see all money in increments of $40. And let me tell you, my gut has not at all accounted for inflation, which is kind of problematic if you think about it. When I pay an entire grandma's yard for just one meal at Chili's or 2 rounds of putt-putt or a quarter tank of gas, I think, man, was that really worth it? $40. Perhaps in part this has made me over cheap and over thrifty, and I get that, but by and large, I think it has made me money-wise. I get money. I get it on a level that a mere how to avoid debt seminar can never fully deliver. Thomas Paine said it best. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. Hear that again. That which we obtain too easily, we esteem too lightly. And an extension of this concept is captured in Milton Friedman's brilliant aphorism, and one that hits the heart of why government money tossing will never work. Friedman writes, "Nobody spends somebody else's money as carefully as he spends his own." To that I say, bingo. Connect this to the principle behind the man stranded on the island, and you've got the point. To the pseudo-charity machine of the U.S. government, $1,000 is $1,000. And they couldn't be more wrong. When the Calcutta leper lay dying in his own filth, did the ladle full of water mean as much as the hand that held his hand? Mother Teresa knew her business. She knew what those people needed. It was the water and the hand. This is not some sort of either-or that I'm trying to create. It's a both and. Mother Teresa gave that in love. The Apostle Paul put it this way. He said, "If I give all I possess to the poor, and I give over my body to hardships that I may boast, but I do not have love, I gain nothing." Folks, it is something less than healthy to give one of those huge display checks to the poor man. And if the check says vote for me on it, I am doubly suspicious. Y'all following me on this? Better to give him a check so small that your right hand cannot even spot it from your left, and to give it in love, with relationship. Not a supply plane dropping crates, but a helicopter unloading love. Socialism or any welfare-esque variation of it cannot be charity. By definition, the mandated redistribution of wealth is another thing entirely from charity. Charity, if it is to be charity at all, must be a choice, a voluntary move, a moment of, I have 2 bottles of water, they are mine, but I choose to give you one that we might both survive a bit longer in this lifeboat. That is charity. And as I said before, absolutely do not let this episode dissuade you from charity. Quite the opposite. Give. Give. As Jesus said, use worldly wealth to gain friends for yourselves so that when it is gone, you will be welcomed into eternal dwellings. Yes, give and love. Give and love. Admittedly, and this is just Wes Young's perspective, charity is uniquely difficult in America, where it seems all the poor are already getting so much. Heck, my wife and I, who both work, have a house, have land, take vacations, eat out, etc., even we periodically find unrequested EBT cards in our mailbox loaded with hundreds of dollars from the government. I guess it's because our kids are on the rolls at public schools. I really don't know, but there it is. So yes, it's uniquely hard here, if hardly unique. The American situation reminds me of the perhaps mythical story of Mother Teresa requesting access to serve the poor in China. The socialist Chinese government replied, "We have no poor here." Tough thing. It's hard. Give anyway. And consider how and what you give. This calls for wisdom on the part of the saints. In love, I guarantee you, if you seek for it, you will find a way to be a scenario B giver. Feed the hungry. Draw water for the thirsty. Care for the sick. Yes, God help us. Yes, but the food and water, the bed and bandages are only half the story. The love that comes with them, when it is delivered in relationship, in care, in true empathy, heals the soul. As Jesus said to the woman at the well, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to eternal life." When I get an EBT card in the mailbox, despite its monetary value, it is still cold and sterile. I feel no love, and it knows no love. Conversely now, take this example. When a team of volunteers from the church came and put a new roof on our house to aid us in our adventure into foster care, y'all, I felt overwhelmed. I still feel overwhelmed in that from years ago, in their love, the cheerful giving of it all, the self-sacrifice of those men. This was nearly a decade later, and here I record this episode under that same roof, and I feel the love shaking the very ground, changing me, moving me, and making me. As to what is my honest assessment of what the kids in our society need, and perhaps I'm sort of gravitating towards the topic of the young in America because of the last episode, what are these kids starving for? Love, mentors, role models, solid adult examples, people living before them lives worthy of being emulated, and in particularly short supply during this uniquely American famine are male role models. Men, true men and truly masculine. And I'm just going to come right out and say it. I mean true men, not the modern substitute for masculinity that is the NFL and the Marvel Universe. Okay, so sure, the hungry need food too. And let us not let one more fellow human miss a meal. I mean that. But I've watched enough 50-gallon trash bins get filled with uneaten government food to sense a different flavor of this uniquely American famine. The uneaten food suggests that stomach hunger is not always the problem, nor more food, more money, the solution. So I'm going to wrap this episode up rather simply. And I'm going to put the challenge on me and on you, wherever you're hearing this and whatever situation or season you're in. Take an honest assessment of those around you, of the potential recipients, and of your own heart. What can you give? What will you give? What should you give? Pray on these things. You have a great pearl, and my prayer is that you and me find the love to use it. Amen.